No cash bail, the law in Illinois. Now, Bob Berlin, good enough to come on state's attorney in DuPage County, one of the busiest guys in the business, I know. And Bob, thanks for doing this. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Good morning, Steve.
And anecdotally, what are you seeing in the first few days of this? Because we picked up on a couple of stories that said the results are mixed as we might have expected.
So far, we have filed petitions to detain in 14 cases. We had hearings on all 14 of those cases, and 7 of them have resulted in detention. Most of those are domestic batteries, misdemeanors, but they're eligible for detention. We had a person charged with residential burglary who was detained, as well as aggravated kidnapping.
So when you, through your years of doing this, you have certainly have instincts about individuals and folks you think maybe can do well, and other folks maybe you hope to do well, and other folks you're pretty sure aren't going to do well. You're not the judge. You can't make that call. Is this percentage of success in detaining the bad guys, if you will, is it about where you expected it would land?
It's kind of what we expected so far. Now, we haven't had any murders, carjackings, armed robberies with guns. We haven't had any of those cases come through yet. So we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. But it is kind of what we expected where things would line up. So far, at least in DuPage County, the violent people are being detained, and those who've committed, retail thefts, nonviolent crimes, they're being released with conditions.
What's your level of nervousness?
Well, I'm still concerned that there will be cases where dangerous defendants, for whatever reason, are released. Maybe because we're not able to prove it, that they're a danger, or we just disagree with the judge. And I'm also concerned, and this is something we're going to be keeping a close watch on, about those defendants who are released, whether they're going to show up in court.
Right. The honor system. Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the deficiencies, I believe, in the amended law is the lack of teeth to deal with those defendants who fail to show up in court. It's no longer a separate crime unless they're in possession of a gun or if it's domestic related. So we're going to be relying on the use of criminal contempt to allow judges to deal with those defendants that fail to appear.
But criminal contempt is a misdemeanor, right?
Criminal contempt, really, it can be a misdemeanor or a felony. It can be, if it's more than a 180-day sentence, if we're seeking more than 180 days, the defendant would be entitled to a trial, even a jury trial.
I think it's an important point to emphasize that not only is the incentive to show up taken away based on human nature and behavior as we know it, now you're saying that, well, I don't show up, maybe I get in a little more trouble, but I'm already in trouble. That's a big problem as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's a real concern that we have. And again, we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. We are keeping very detailed statistics and data, and we're going to follow all of these cases so we know who's appearing and who isn't.
Yeah, it's probably too soon to tell how it's affecting public safety. But what makes me super nervous is that under the Safety Act, categories like aggravated battery, robberies, burglaries, hate crimes, aggravated DUIs, drug-induced homicides, trafficking or drug offenses, including fentanyl and trafficking cases, are not eligible for detention. So it's up to the judges in that initial appearance to decide whether they should be held. And then if they are let go, it's back on the honor system. Is there a way to do like a robust electronic monitoring system if they do get to leave?
So judges do have the ability to put people on electronic monitors or home detention. And I just want to clarify that under the amended version of the law, which is what we're dealing with, many of those offenses are in fact now detainable. Burglary is not, but all other forcible felonies are detainable, and any offense that is non-probationable. So that includes your more serious drug offenses and drug-induced homicide. They are detainable under a dangerousness standard, which now includes a threat to the community. So the law that was passed in December of 2022, the amendment, it's significantly better than the original Safety Act I believe it still doesn't give judges enough discretion.
Well, the network of states' attorneys that have stood up and said this is a bad idea was laudable. The judges, the pressure falls on the judges to make the right calls on these things. And it goes to a question that I don't think we've had addressed. We know about the backlog of cases in Cook County. Do these detention hearings, do they take the place of what used to be the bail hearing, or is this just adding to the court calendar?
Exactly. It takes the place. It's no longer a bond hearing. It's a detention hearing. There's going to be more evidence presented, but I still believe most of that evidence will be presented by the attorneys by way of proffer. Very similar to what happens now. But I've been a huge proponent of judicial discretion because I believe it's the judges who hear the evidence, who know the law. They should be making the decisions on detention and not the General Assembly. Put that decision in the hands
100%.
of a qualified judge.
Mm-hmm.
This is, again, only a few days in, and, your spidey sense, that's a technical legal term, your spidey sense, Bob Berlin, going forward with this, I would assume each day you're waiting for a phone call to go, well, here's a pothole we stepped in.
Sure. I mean, as with any new law, there's going to be some hiccups along the way. But I'll say this, the first 2 days so far in DuPage County, I think, have gone very well. But we were prepared for this. We have trained our police officers, our judges are trained, our public defenders are trained, and actually things have gone smoothly. But remember, in order to detain someone, it requires a petition from the state's attorney. And I can tell you this, that in DuPage County, we are going to be filing petitions on all violent criminals. Anyone who we believe is a threat to the community, we're going to file a petition to.
And by the way, a threat to the community can mean a threat to their family, domestic violence, things like that, too.
Yeah. And it's your obligation to follow the law because that's what you do. And so this is what you're doing. You're prepared for it and you'll do the best you can. I did get a text from the county, DuPage County, talking about the event that you're doing, the State of the County Public Safety Address in Downers Grove on October 18th, which I think is a really great event so you can really answer the questions that people have.
Sure. And, I think it's important to let the public know what's happening with this law, how it's working. And that's why we're going to keep really close eyes on it. We're going to keep the data. And we're going to be very transparent about it. And if there are things that need to be fixed, we're going to go to the General Assembly and try and amend the law again to improve it, to make sure that the public is protected.
So that address, if you will, that you're making, that meeting with the public, if people want more information, where do they go for that?
It's a political event. It's the Downers Grove Township Republican Organization.
Okay.
DGTRO. They have a website.
Okay. DGTRO, you Republicans.
Yeah, .org. I'm looking at it right now.
Bob Berlin, thank you for doing this. Again, we know how busy you are, but we hope you'll come back.
Thanks, Bob.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.